Joining me now, the director of the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University and a retired IDF Colonel, Miri. Colonel, thank you so much for joining the show. What does this 4-day ceasefire mean for Hamas's ability to regroup and potentially receive aid and additional weapons to be able to continue in this war?
The Hamas have been building their capabilities for over a decade. I don't think we always understand what that means, that they've ruled over the Gaza Strip for 16 years. That's such a long time period. So first of all, I think for them, it's to really go and assess what Israel has destroyed in our over 3 weeks of the ground operation, let alone with the aerial campaign as well. So they're going in, they're assessing. Only now are they starting to put out an additional list of very high-ranking Hamas terrorists were killed by Israel in the last 3 weeks. They themselves didn't know that. So what we're seeing in that sense is that in the northern Gaza Strip, where Israel has been very intensely campaigning, where they're going to be looking, trying to put together booby trapping, going back and seeing where Israel is deployed to try and hinder any capability of Israel once we go back and continue the ground operation. The second thing that they're going to be doing is I don't want to say licking their wounds. That just sounds too terrible. But they right now, in that sense, are regrouping in the central and southern Gaza Strip. We have been in the ground operation targeting in a very systematic, slow way the different Hamas battalions, and I use a military term, that are in the northern Gaza Strip. But the parallel ones are in the central and south. They're going to be learning the lessons of how the IDF does the campaign, of how we try to avoid the civilian casualties. And I say that because, to me, they're going to be building up as much as possible the civilians to be their defense. And that's a horrible, horrible thing.
Colonel, something that hasn't been talked about lately a lot, but is still kind of on a low simmer, the northern part of Israel, Hezbollah, with Lebanon. They've kind of given some low-level participation. I heard a great podcast that you were a part of. You were talking about the low-level participation that Hezbollah has been giving so far, but could be still building to provide more support to Hamas. Is that a valid concern for Israel at this time?
Katie, when you bring that up, and I want to tell everybody out there, right now there are tens of thousands of Israelis, tens of thousands, who are not living in their town, in their village, in their community because of the Hamas war against Israel down south, because of the Hezbollah. I like the term war of attrition against us up north. Until and including last Friday, the day itself that we started with this pause, Hamas have continued to fire into Israel. In these last few days, when there's a pause down south, Hezbollah have continued to fly in unmanned aerial vehicles into Israel. They do so to gather information. They have done so with what we call the suicide attack, different type of drones. This is something that's going on continuously. And in addition, we also have further away forces that continue to attack us, both the Houthis from Yemen and piracy in the Persian Gulf. So Israel is on attack in a lot of different places, not just from the Hamas and in this ground operation down south.
A major complication in Israel's offensive in Gaza has been Hamas's elaborate tunnel system, which may still hold hostages. Has progress been made, do you think, in decimating Hamas's ability to continue to use this tunnel system while still safeguarding the lives of hostages that are being held?
I'm going to give the worst example possible, especially on a Sunday, and I think that you're in New York. But think of it, if we're looking at the greater subway system of New York, that we've been very effective against the subway in the Bronx, but we really haven't done a lot on the subway system in Manhattan. And I know that's a horrible way, but I want people to understand the challenge right now, because we're working in one area where there are these paramilitary terror battalions of Hamas in the northern Gaza Strip. But they built this whole subterranean arena throughout the Gaza Strip. As I said before, 16 years of building such a system means that they have hundreds of miles of these underground subterranean tunnels, both to hold the hostages in, but overwhelmingly for their tens of thousands of paramilitary terrorist fighters. So yes, it's still a challenge. We've been very effective up north. And I say it because to me, it's clear we are going to have to continue and work both in the central and in the south. And everybody kind of feels, that there's a pause right now. This is a humanitarian pause. They kidnapped, hostage, brutalized, and took 240 people, both international and Israeli. And that's one aspect. But they built the whole system of the tunnels to protect themselves so that Israel would not be able to get to them. And we're getting to them slowly, systematically, but we're getting to them.
Retired IDF Colonel Miri Eisen, thank you so much for being here and sharing your insight. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Katie.